So it's Tuesday. Today is the holiday, Mardi Gras, I believe you'd call it uh, in English. And we're gonna go to my aunt's place again. We're gonna dye some stuff. We have some of my mom's pants, that we're gonna dye black again so they look new. And there's some, linens from my bed that I'm gonna dye this wine color, which is the same color of like it's not really a duvet, it's just like this thing that I kind of like put on top of me for me to go to sleep, because it's like a duvet or anything like that is it's too hot, so I need something a little lighter, but like a little thicker than just than bad linens. But yeah, the first things first, what I wanted to talk about is about this finger here of mine, particularly like this part. It's been 2 days now that I am not feeling anything in it, and my mom was kind of like pressing to see. She thinks that there's some like liquid or something on top of it. That's pretty much why I'm probably not feeling anything, and it's not going away. It's also not getting bigger. It's not really covering other fingers, so that's cool. Because that was like my biggest worry. What if like this starts to radiate to other fingers? And before I realize, I feel nothing on my hands. But it is like we're still celebrating holidays. The health center is not open today, so I'm gonna wait, because I think Thursday we have to go there to either get medication or get some prescription renewed, something like that. So I'm gonna go and ask them what they can do about my finger, and if there's anything that I should be worried about, because that's like the issue. It's not just like that I'm not feeling anything, because this thing of like you're not feeling things on your extremities, like it can mean like a bunch of other things. They're bad, so I don't want that. But all things considered, it's pretty okay. And yeah, so moving on. A different subject I wanted to talk about is about something that happened yesterday. I think I've been talking a lot about me just kind of like waiting for the end in a very passive manner, because I've been trying to think of ways and come up with ways, and yesterday I kind of did, but my parents kind of like got in the way and prevented it from from actually happening. I did start it though, and I think it's kind of like my fault, because I didn't say like goodbye or anything. I did kind of like just took a moment to just tell each of them that I love them, which I tell them that I love them all the time. So like this is not necessarily out of the ordinary, but I think maybe something in my tone might have given it away. So yeah, I was in the bathroom, and yeah, it didn't happen. Got the idea from Oppenheimer. And yeah, like I think it could have worked, but well, we'll never know, because now that it has happened, I'm kind of like increasingly more under surveillance, which understandable. Like the only way for it seems to me like this, that the only way that I'll be able to follow through is if my parents let me go, and they're not gonna do that. I have a pretty healthy and loving relationship with my parents. I know that some people, they have very kind of like conturbated and very problematic relationship with their parents. That's not the case for me. So yeah, I don't really see a reality in which like that is happening. So I don't really know. I have to get creative, and I don't know if I can, because I've tried so many things already, and they kind of like didn't work. Or there are things that like I could do, but I need a certain moment of isolation, which hasn't really been happening. So there's that. But all things considered, it was a good attempt. I feel like it brought me closer to something, to closure, the permanent closure I want so bad. And I will say that ever since it happened, I've been kind of like occupying my mind with like a lot of different things, so I don't have the time to think about my condition and what is and what isn't. And this is kind of good, because usually that thinking is what leads to the kind of like the desperation that leads to me kind of like craving the end. Nothing really changed in terms of like those sentences. They're still happening, and it does seem like that like it's going to go back right to where it was before this past few days. So I don't really know what to do about it. Although I would say that, one new fantasy has been kind of like sprouting that is a little bit more realistic in the sense that like I wouldn't have to change the past, just the future. But it's still like the part of like this happening in the future that is still very unlikely and improbable. But it's better than the other one that involves pretty much like the reality itself having to change to accommodate that vision. And I'm still not a believer, but like every day I've been having these thoughts of like really hoping there was a way for me to make a deal or something that would have been, I don't know, like that would just kind of like solve all of my problems, right? It would be a very tailored solution to all the issues I've been having with myself and with life in general. Although like it wouldn't really change life, the things around me would just change. It would change me and the things around me, but like not so much. The stuff that's a little more distant that's happening in the world, it would still kind of like be the same. Because I realized that the issue is that I have no comforters. Like nothing in my life really works as solace for like whenever bad things happen. Bad things that are like happening out there out of my control, that it still affect me one way or another, or affect people I love and care about. People that are important to me, or even just like not just people who I care about, but just like people and influence on their rights as human beings. So yeah, like it wouldn't change any of that, but I would have I would be better equipped to handle the situation because of what would be going on, what would be happening around me. Also, something I wanted to discuss is jealousy and envy, because when I'm talking about jealousy, like envy is more specific. You know exactly what I mean when I say envy, but when I say jealousy, like it can mean a couple of different things. It can be talking about being jealous of something that somebody has or something that somebody is, or it can also be like you're jealous, for example, of a person. Like somebody who is in your life and you're jealous that they are somebody else, that type of thing. Like the second one, I don't really experience that, to be completely honest. Never has been the case for me. Maybe the issue is that I don't care enough about the people around me for me to feel that way. But I do have some relationships, and generally speaking, like I don't really sense that. But jealousy, like in the sense of envy, it is one. I was thinking about this because yesterday I went to, my friend's party, as I mentioned, and one of the women, a woman there who is friends with our friends, she kind of like saw my tattoos and she was very invested, was asking me about it, was seeing them, and then she saw my back piece, and then my back piece, each of like it has 7 elements. Each of them represents a different vice or sin. But like I think I got the idea back when I was still like religious, but it kind of remained after I left the church too, because if you think about it as sins but as vices, like it is still very very accurate way to depict everything that's wrong with humans, everything that we fuck up, everything that like we do wrong. You can boil down to some of like the 7 elements, or a combination of them. So, initially the idea of the tattoo wasn't for me to get like every single one of them. I was just going to get the ones that, kind of like were the most pressing for me, which initially was Wrath and Pride. But then as I started thinking about the other ones, I realized that like, oh, I have an issue with them one way or another. So, like this is kind of like me kind of like embracing my limitations, because for me, like historically, I've been very hesitant to kind of like accept that I had, not flaws in general, but like certain flaws. There were certain things that I was like, yeah, this is it. Usual stuff I didn't really care. But then there were stuff that seemed to really get in the way, and I really didn't want to accept those. So I lived in denial, and that didn't really help anything. So it was kind of like a way for me to just accept, because also like some of this here, like because you have the vices and then you have the virtues, so some of here they're closer to virtues than necessarily vices, but it's just like this idea of like this is like my burden in life, like these are the things they're making me like not be my best self and not achieve like the best for me. So, and that has this, but like this woman, she was kind of like she saw this, and also my Lilith tattoo, and she was kind of, wondering like if that was like a good message to put. She's very pro. She's not anti-tattoos or anything. She's just, thinking about like these specific tattoos, if they really mean what I wanted them to mean, like if there could be something bad that I'm kind of like embracing, in my life and all that. She didn't make me promise that if I ever feel like I wanted to remove one of my tattoos or that I regret getting some of them, I would call her and we would talk about it. And I did promise, and if that ever happens, I will do it. I just don't think that it will, because also I think that the reason why she had like the impressions, because I don't know if I explained it in the best way possible. I think that I kind of like fumbled a little bit my explanations. If you give me like some moments for me to just prep what I'm gonna say, I think I'm gonna be able to do a much better job at just talking than if I just put me on the spot right there. I wasn't really expecting to talk about my tattoos. And there's a lot of times there's like a context that happens, that is something that happened before, and like as I'm talking about them right now, and the context is kind of lost there. But why am I talking about this? Kind of forgot. But yeah, so I went to the party, and as I was there, I was already planning, and then we ended up after the party, we ended up going around like just seeing things and getting to know like a new part of town, and where a certain avenue leads to. And so yeah, so that was nice. I like doing those things. I like having these little moments that allows me to just see stuff, and my head was kind of in a bad place. And even then, like everything that happened, because this is one of those things, because yesterday was not a bad day at all. It was actually a pretty good day. I'm pretty happy with yesterday, but the fact that it was good is also the reason why it kind of like made me more likely to try to do what I did, because like that was a good day, but like that's it. That is as good as my days are gonna get. Like, is this the mediocre life I'm living? Like, is this really what I want for myself? And the answer was kind of no, as it oftentimes is. But also, like Sunday was still in my head, and I was still being kind of like plagued with all sorts of, not temptations, because the temptations being like dependencies I was having, but kind of like the reality being kind of like confronted by my reality, and as opposed to like what I wanted to be happening, what I wish was be happening, what would be fulfilling and satisfactory to me. And basically the conclusion I came to is that even like even if like everything went right in my life starting now until like I reached success, let's say, like it would still not be enough. It still would be, yeah, it wouldn't be good enough, basically. I'm quite comfortable saying this. This was something that it took me a while for me to just say out loud, before that to say it to myself. But I think I have to say this because this is the only way for me to make sure that maybe it is good enough someday. As long as I'm just internalizing these thoughts, they're festering in my head, and I'm not really doing anything to counter them or to make things right. So it's important for me to just say how I'm feeling, even if like it makes me sound because I'm not being ungrateful. I'm very glad that like my life could be so much worse. So I'm not really saying that this is the worst that it could be. It's just that this is pretty mid, and I don't know if this is something. It is not something that simply can be fixed. Even if I achieve success, in the trajectory I am right now, it still would be pretty mid success, and like it just feels like having to put up so much time and effort and so much work into getting to that point, only for me to still not be happy. Like I might as well just end it now. Like I might as well, kind of like what's the point, basically. Of course, like every day that I live, I have the opportunity of like doing a thing or another that makes me happy. But like all these things, they're like palliative measures. They're not really solutions. They're just things that distract me, and distraction is not good enough for me. Like I don't want to be distracted. I want to be happy and contented with my circumstances, and I don't know how exactly to make that happen, as I said, because even if like things change, because I'm on a certain path right now, so if I persist on this path until I achieve some level of success, it will still not be good enough, as I said before, But it's not that it's going to be, not that it isn't good enough. It's just that it is just so this is such like a dismal thing compared to what I wanted, to what I feel like I could have achieved otherwise, you know. And it is, you know, there was a time where I was like, it's 100% up to me, like, you know, this is up to myself and I have to do things. But the reality of the situation is that it is not that easy. There are things that are set in motion, you know, like you sort of in a different context. You know, sometimes for, you know, things to work out, you have to be, I would have to be like in a different place altogether, you know. And why don't I get there? Because I don't really have, you know, but I don't even know where to start from. Because also, like, this is the thing, like when I think about it, my fantasy I have, you know, like the thing that is happening there, I don't even know if that is something I actually want, you know, or if that is just, you know, one thing that my head latched onto, and it kind of like symbolizes success to me. It's not only success, but, you know, contentment and, you know, fulfillment. And, you know, I have like no indications that this thing would be good for me, or that, you know, like I actually want it, you know. So I'm gonna drop everything to go pursue something that I'm not even sure I want, you know. But it's kind of crazy because at the same time that like I'm fully aware of this, my head is also very much pursuing that, you know, pushing me to pursue that. So yeah, it's a contradiction. And, you know, I'm not gonna, you know, because what I have right now is concrete, you know. So I'm not gonna, you know, drop something possible for something that 1 in a million chance was going to happen, you know, possibly even like less, 1 in a billion. Okay, no, billion is too much. Yeah, a million kind of like works. So I'm not gonna, you know, jeopardize what I have, as much as I don't like it and I don't care for it and I hate it, you know, for something that could be, you know. This is type of like leap of faith that, like, I don't know, I think if I was like 18, I would have probably, you know, taken, I would just go there. But like I'm 27, you know, I'm not gonna risk everything for a maybe, actually less than a maybe, for, you know, a shot at a maybe, you know. But yeah, so that's kind of like where I am at mentally. I'm glad that I was able to get this out of my system. I do think that these little videos I make, they help me, you know, more than I can kind of like imagine, because sometimes like some thoughts, they get stuck in your head and they kind of fester there, and, you know, you can kind of like get rid of them. So all the negativity, all the impossibilities, they are kind of, you know, living here rent free. So when I put it out, I'm kind of like doing something about it. And it makes me feel like less frustrated, you know. So anyways, bye.